Okay, let's jump into this deep dive. Our focus today isn't just about, living longer. It's really about optimizing health span, making sure those years we live are actually healthy years, free from chronic illness.
That's it, exactly. For so long, the focus was all on the end game, like reversing aging or managing a disease once it's already there.
Right, very reactive.
Very. But what our sources are showing is this massive shift. We're now seeing how new biology, new AI, and just huge amounts of data are letting us get ahead of the curve on the big three.
And just to remind everyone, the big three are cardiovascular disease, cancer, and neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's.
Right. And the real discovery, the hook here, is that we now have the ability to prevent these diseases, not just treat them.
And that's because of this incubation period we've uncovered.
Precisely. These diseases, they don't just pop up overnight. They take about 15, maybe 20 years to really develop in the body before you'd ever notice a symptom.
So if we can start monitoring people, say, in their 40s or 50s.
We have a 2-decade window. Yeah, a full 20 years to step in and stop the disease from ever happening. That changes, well, it changes everything.
So let's just define the problem we're trying to solve here. In the US, for example, the average lifespan is around 79 years. But the health span? That's a different story.
It's much lower. It's only about 64 years.
So that's a 15-year gap. That is an enormous amount of time.
It is, and it's a miserable time. That's the period people spend living with these chronic debilitating illnesses. And what's really striking is that almost 80% of that lost health span, it's directly from those big three diseases.
So if we can crack those three.
We solved the vast majority of the quality of life problem for older age.
Okay, so to figure this out, researchers didn't start with sick people. They started with these incredible outliers, the elderly. Tell me about them, because what they found really turns our ideas about genetics on their head.
It really does. So the Welderly study, it looked at a group of about 1,400 people. Average age was 89, some were over 100. And the one thing they had in common:
They were never sick.
never sick, no chronic medications. The researchers went in thinking, we're going to find the golden ticket, the genetic code for longevity.
And they ran a whole genome sequencing, the whole 9 yards. What did they find?
Almost nothing.
Seriously.
This is the biggest surprise of the study. There was very little in their DNA to explain why they lived so long and so well.
That seems to fly in the face of the idea that, my grandpa lived to 100, so I will too.
It absolutely challenges that. Take this one woman, Lee Russell, 98 years old, still painting, totally independent.
Okay.
Her family history was, frankly, terrible. Her mother died at 59, her father at 64. Her brothers died young. Her incredible health span was clearly not coming from her genes.
So if it's not DNA, what is it? What biological system was the common thread in all these super healthy, long-lived people?
The immune system, almost without fail.
The immune system.
Yeah. There's this incredible study on Maria Morera, who lived to be 117. They analyzed everything: her gut, her brain, you name it. And the one thing that stood out was her immune system. They called it remarkably youthful.
So this is where we get into those two key terms, immunosenescence and inflammaging.
Exactly. Immunosenescence is basically your immune system failing over time, getting old and weak. And inflammaging is this constant low-grade inflammation that just simmers in the background.
It's like a slow internal rust.
That's a perfect way to put it. And that rust is what creates the perfect environment for the big three to take hold.
So if the immune system is the clock, we need a better way to tell the time than just counting birthdays. We need to measure biological age.
Absolutely. The whole focus has shifted away from chronological age. We started with what are called molecular clocks, like the Horvath clock, which looked at DNA methylation.
These little chemical tags that build up on your DNA over your life.
Right. And they were great for giving us sort of body-wide odometer reading.
But the new stuff is even more specific.
Oh, much more. We're now into what's called proteomic organ aging. Instead of just DNA tags, we're looking at proteins in the blood that are shed by specific organs.
So you can see how fast your brain is aging versus, say, your heart.
Exactly. It's like going from just the mileage on a car to getting a real-time diagnostic on the engine, the transmission, the brakes, all separately.
And what did that tell us? Which organs are the most important for survival?
The big studies, like the ones out of Stanford using the UK Biobank, showed that the two most important factors, the ones that really explain survival patterns, were the aging pace of the brain and the immune system.
Which brings us right to Alzheimer's. And here, there's a specific blood biomarker that seems to be a total game changer.
We're talking about PTA217 or p-tau217. It's a protein that indicates damage inside brain cells, the kind of damage linked to Alzheimer's.
And the incredible thing is when you can detect it.
You can find it in the blood 15 to 20 years before a single cognitive symptom shows up.
That is just profound. So for the quarter of us who carry that APOE4 risk gene for Alzheimer's, this changes everything, right? It's not just a death sentence anymore.
It's not, because now we see the mechanism. The latest research on APOE4 carriers shows this really strong link to, you guessed it, a hyperactive immune system and chronic inflammation.
So it's the inflammaging again. The gene is turning up the dial on that internal rust.
It seems that's the primary way it increases risk, which is good news.
Why is that good news?
Because we can target inflammation. These markers, they aren't destiny. They're modifiable.
And we have proof of this from a study on a nurse?
We do. A small but really powerful randomized study. This nurse went all in on lifestyle changes. Strict Mediterranean diet, a lot of exercise. She lost 30 pounds, gained a lot of muscle.
And her Alzheimer's markers.
Her PTA181 marker, which is another one related to this pathology, it dropped by 75%.
75%?
Oh.
Just from lifestyle changes.
It shows that this whole process, this neurodegeneration, can be slowed, even suppressed, long before it becomes a disease. Exercise seems to be especially powerful at keeping these markers down.
Okay, so that's rigorous lifestyle. But what about a medical intervention that's hiding in plain sight? A vaccine.
The shingles vaccine. This is one of those amazing things you find when you can analyze data on a huge scale. We're talking 4 large studies, 3 of them from Stanford-affiliated groups.
And they all found the same thing.
They all found the same surprising nugget. A consistent, statistically significant 20 to 25% reduction in new cases of dementia and Alzheimer's.
That's a huge number.
It's massive, and it also seemed to slow the disease down in people who already had it. If this were a new drug from a pharma company, it would be the blockbuster of the decade.
So why does it work? Is it stopping a virus, or is it just calming down the immune system?
That's the million-dollar question. We don't know the exact mechanism yet. But the evidence is so strong across so many people that many experts are saying we don't need to wait for a 10-year, $100 million clinical trial. For people over 50, it's a very low-risk, high-reward intervention.
Okay, this is all leading us towards AI. It's popping up everywhere, and it's changing how we predict risk for all of the big 3. Let's start with cancer.
Right. Take a mammogram. An AI can now look at a scan that a human radiologist calls normal and accurately predict if that woman is at high risk of developing breast cancer in the next 5 years. That's already FDA approved.
Wow. And it's not just images, it's blood tests too.
Yes. AI can look at years of your routine blood work, see these subtle trends that no human would ever spot, and predict things like pancreatic cancer much, much earlier than we ever could before.
And for heart disease, it's not just who gets it, but when.
Exactly. AI algorithms can analyze a coronary CAT scan, a CCTA, and see trouble brewing years in advance. It's not looking for a big blockage. It's looking for tiny signs of inflammation in the artery wall.
It's spotting the smoke before there's a fire.
That's it. That is true primary prevention. And what's wild is that one of the best windows into all of this is, of all places, your eye.
The retina.
The retina. It's the only place you can look directly at your arteries, veins, and brain tissue without cutting someone open. It's a window to your heart, your kidneys, your brain.
So AI can just look at a picture of your retina and
predict your risk for Alzheimer's and heart disease with shocking accuracy.
Oh.
We're definitely moving to a future where you take a selfie of your retina and an AI gives you a full body health report.
Which brings us to the biggest model of all, Delphi 2M. This sounds like something out of science fiction. It's like GPT, but for your health.
It's a massive conceptual leap. You know how GPT predicts the next word in a sentence? Delphi 2M is a transformer model that's been trained to predict the next disease token in the sequence of your life.
And the scale of this is just mind-boggling.
It's staggering. It was trained on 400,000 people from the UK Biobank, then validated on almost 2 million people in Denmark. And it's not just predicting one disease, it predicts the rates of over 1,000 diseases simultaneously.
1,000? How accurate can it possibly be?
It's actually very good. The average accuracy is around 0.76, where 0.5 is a coin flip and 1.0 is perfect, so very strong. But you want to know what it's most confident about?
What?
Death. The accuracy for predicting mortality is 0.97. It is incredibly good at knowing when someone is at high risk of dying.
That is sobering. But what's powerful here is that it's not a black box. The AI can explain why it's making a prediction.
Yes, the explainability is crucial. It shows how diseases cluster together, not just by medical type, but by consequence. So heart attacks and sepsis cluster very tightly with death because the model learned from the data that they have immediate severe consequences.
And it can trace the timeline. It can show how something that happened years ago affects your risk years from now.
Absolutely, it quantifies it. It found one patient whose history of digestive issues increased their future risk of pancreatic cancer by 19 times.
19-fold.
A very specific, actionable number. And it sees time dependencies. The risk from cancer lingers for years, but the risk from something acute like sepsis, it drops off really fast once you recover.
No, we have to put a big flashing warning sign here. These models are only as good as the data they're trained on. They can have biases.
A crucial point. The UK Biobank, for example, is healthier and wealthier than the general population. So the model reflects that. Its predictions might be less accurate for people who don't fit that profile.
And it also picks up weird things from how data is collected, right? Not just biology.
Exactly. It predicted diseases that you only find on hospital records at 8 times the rate for anyone who had any other hospital record.
Yeah.
The AI is smart, but it's just recognizing a pattern. People in the hospital system generate more hospital data. You have to separate that from a real biological risk.
Okay, so this all sounds amazing, but I can hear the listener now thinking, this must cost a fortune. I can't afford all this.
And we have to reframe that whole economic argument. The experts we looked at argue that the core data stack, your genome, your polygenic risk scores, that's a one-time cost of under $200.
And when you compare that to the cost of treating Alzheimer's or cancer,
Which costs trillions. This preventative screening is, without a doubt, the highest reward, lowest cost investment we could possibly make in health.
but there's still the behavioral problem. Even if we know lifestyle can add, say, 5 to 7 years of health span, how do we get people to actually do it?
Yeah.
We know only 20% of people get the minimum exercise.
General advice doesn't work. Eat better, exercise more. It fails. The key, it turns out, is personalized risk data.
What do you mean?
A study in Finland showed it perfectly. When they just gave people generic advice, nothing changed. But when they gave people their specific high polygenic risk score for heart disease,
A number that was about them.
yes, they were way more likely to quit smoking, change their diet, and stick with an exercise plan. It makes the risk real and personal.
So telling someone, hey, the model says you have a 19 times higher risk of this cancer if you don't change course, that's the wake-up call.
It's the jolt that turns an abstract idea into an immediate threat. And the solutions are often free. Just walking 4,000 steps a day has a massive, measurable benefit. The AI just gives you the motivation to actually do it.
So the big conclusion from our deep dive today is that the old model of preventive care, the annual physical, it's obsolete.
Completely. The new paradigm is a comprehensive data stack. It's your genomics, your organ clocks, AI reading your retina scans, continuous sensors tracking inflammation. That's how we get to an era of true, proactive primary prevention.
So the core takeaway for you is this. The focus is shifting. We are moving from reacting to symptoms to measuring, predicting, and intervening against your own specific disease trajectory, years before you would ever feel sick.
And to leave you with a final thought, these Delphi-type models, they're already being used to forecast disease burdens for whole countries, decades out. So it raises this huge question. If we can predict with high confidence the future health needs of an entire community, how should that change how we deliver healthcare? Should we be pouring resources into areas struggling with things like ultra-processed foods or environmental toxins now, instead of just waiting 20 years for the inevitable wave of disease to hit?